When the only constant in life is change, you need to be ready. This is the Man-Made Survival Show.
Hi, my name is Jose Pro, Man-Made Survival, and I'd like to thank everybody that has come back to the channel to watch this video. Thank you so much for the people that have subscribed to the video. Thank you for everybody that has liked the video. Thank you everybody that has left a comment. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for helping us grow, because I do believe that this information is very important. It's going to benefit a lot of people. So today what we're going to talk about is food and food preps and food storage. But before I go there, I want to encourage the people that are listening to this on podcast and all the other podcast platforms to come on YouTube or go to brighteon.com and look for me on there as Man-Made Survival and watch the video, because I'm going to be showing some things that I think will be beneficial for you to see. All right, so why do I have this in front of me? Because on the previous video, I let people know that there's about 36 million Americans that depend on food stamps. And I'm not here to bash on people that are on food stamps or anything like that. I actually think it's a wonderful thing. The people that need help are getting the help they need. Also, if the Trump administration goes and changes the requirements on people that are gonna, to be able to get the EBT or get the food stamps, all the requirements to be able to get it, then about 5.3 million people are gonna be affected, whether it's good or bad. I'm not here to say that it's gonna be gone for the people that have families or anything like that. You need to check with your local DHR and see if if this is gonna affect you in any way. And if it's not, then great. But if it is, then you want to be ready for anything like that. But anyways, like I said, oh yeah, and another thing, I'll also share that about 30 to 40% of people cannot pay for an unexpected $400 expense. That's a lot of people. Now, 36 million Americans on food stamps, that's about 10% of the population. All right, give or take. But the point is that a lot of people are on it. A lot of people depend on it. It doesn't matter what your opinion is, whether they're bombs and they're just getting stuff for free, or whether, yes, they need it and they need to not mess with it. The point is that it's happening and the people are dependent on it. I know a lot of people around me in the county I live where they do depend on it. And I have talked to them and I've asked them, if they were to take your EBT right now, do you think you can make it, without it? And most of them said no. And not all of them have kids. So that's what I'm saying. It affects everybody. And there's some older people that I know also that they only get about $60 a month for food just for themselves. And sometimes that's not even enough, even though they're the only ones eating out of those food stamps. But anyways, this what I have in front of me is something you can get on EBT. All right. Where I live, we have a store that's called Aldi. And the Aldi will sell these cans very, very cheap. For example, this can right here, I bought it for 50 cents. And this, a bunch of them sit in my pantry. The point is that if you can set aside about $20 a month from your EBT, you can get a bunch of these and you can feed your family whenever any crisis comes. If you don't have any money to give them for food or anything like that, or whatever the case may be, you can get a bunch of these and you still, these three, and you can still get a meal that's gonna feed you, it's gonna nourish you, and you won't go hungry for fairly cheap. And if you have food stamps, then this is great, because the food stamp system here in the United States, it's a great safety net, because a lot of people in other countries do not have that safety net. A lot of people in other countries do starve because there's no such thing as food stamps there. That's why this program of food stamps is amazing. It's something that I found out when I went through my personal crisis a while back, or a few years ago, but I'll explain that later. Now, two things come when you, or two issues rise when you buy canned foods. One of them is space. We recommend that you have at least 6 months to a year for food for you and your family. You know, for yourself, for your spouse, and your children. All right. For a lot of people that live in mega cities, or in big cities like New York, LA, name a big city, sometimes they don't have a lot of space in their apartments to be able to stack food. Now, if you're one in that situation, then you need to go ahead and have at least 1 month worth of food. All right. But also remember that if you live in one of those big cities, your plan should always be to bug out. But in case you can, like we have seen in Wuhan and other places around China, where they suddenly say you're in quarantine and nobody gets out, whatever you have at home is what you're going to eat. And you need to have at least a month worth of food for you and your family there in your house. Because I remember when I first started reporting on China, that there was a college student that said that he only had 10 days for him and his family to eat on. And from that point till today, it has been more than 10 days. It's been 3 weeks, so about 21 days. So they're about 11 days past what they had to eat. And he said that he didn't know what he was going to do if the quarantine didn't stop before the food ran out. So the point is that it can last a lot longer than what we anticipate. That's why you need at least a whole month worth of food and water in your home. The other problem that arises out of canned foods is the expiration date. If you go buy a can of food, it usually has 2 years worth of shelf life that you can put it in your home. But we also know that a can of food can last about a year or two, depending on what it is, past the expiration date. So that'll give you a little more time, and your investment won't be wasted or anything like that if it gets past the expiration date. Now, if you ever have cans that are close to expiration date and you're gonna go ahead and buy more, do not throw them away. If you don't want to eat them, then you can always donate them to places that will accept food, and like homeless shelters and places like that. Shelters that help women, children. You can always take it to the orphanage. So there's places you can take your canned goods, as long as they're not expired, because they gotta abide by the law, and they'll use it if you're not able to. Now, always remember, you have to buy what you're gonna eat and be able to live off of it if you had to. So here's one option, okay? The other option you can do is you can go to Sam's Club and you can buy in bulk. For example, this is white rice. You can buy a 50 pound of rice for $20. And that 50 pounds of rice is a lot, and it's gonna feed you and your family for a long time. All right? I mean, it all depends on how you eat it, but you can always combine. If you have this, you can always eat it with this. You can have your fruits, or you can eat it with your meats. The point is that you have a lot of options, especially when you're on food stamps. You have options to be able to store and take advantage that the government is helping you to be able to stock up your food. Because when the help is not there anymore, if anything happens, let's not say Wuhan or the coronavirus. Let's say there's an EMP, or let's say there's a nuclear attack somewhere, and the supply chain is disrupted. This will always give you a good meal, a nutritious meal, and you and your family will not be scrambling at the grocery store trying to find something to eat when there's nothing to eat anymore. So this is what you can go with. This is sugar. So the way you do this, once you go and you put you gotta buy the Milo bag, all right, and you fill it in. You put the oxygen absorbers, yeah, and then you label it, what it is, how much is in it, and the day you put it in there. That way you know about how long it is. And you always want to take inventory of what you got, because you need to rotate it, use it, make sure it doesn't spoil on you, and you just waste the money. Now, those are the options you have. All right, if you're on EBT, you have the safety net to be able to prepare, and I really advise you to do it, because something can happen. We don't know what it could be, but if anything happens, it's there. And this is something you can buy on EBT, all right? Or food stamps. Where I come from, we call it EBT. Now, that's the first option. Other options, if you have the money, is what I have right here next to me. Oh, but before I forget, if you're gonna go this route and you're gonna pack it yourself, and I'm talking out of experience here, you're gonna need one of these buckets and store it inside. Because even though that these bags keep the bugs out and the moisture, what it will not keep out is rodents and mice and stuff like that can chew on it. I have had mice chew on these, and ruin the bag, and I had to throw the bag away because I don't know if they've been all the way in it or not, so it became waste. So that's why you need a bucket to put it in, or any other storage container, really. So the bucket is to keep this from getting chewed by mice, and they will find it and they will chew it. Trust me, they will. Now, the other option that I was talking about is the storage food. Here's the coffee, oats. There's your breakfast. For children, they have the big bucket of milk, and this thing has 800 servings. All right, so this will last a long time, and this will give your children something good to eat, something nutritious. Also, they have these, all right, and this can be used as snacks for the children, so they don't get bored with eating the same thing over and over. Or you can blend it with the milk and make a smoothie out of it. Just be creative. The point is that you have options. And of course, you should always go with storable food, because it lasts longer. This right here has about 20 to 30 years shelf life. All right, so the point is, if you have the money, go with this. If you're on EBT or you don't have much money, go with this. Either way, they're both gonna feed you, all right? The only difference between the two is how long they last. But it doesn't matter which one you have. You're gonna make sure that you and your family are fed. Now, storing food is always great. But if you have the space, if you have enough acreage in your land, in your home, then you should always have your own garden and your livestock. Heirloom seeds are always best, and you need to go ahead and have them saved up, because if anything happens, and in summertime, you can always start the planting process. If you don't already do it for fun, if you only do it when something happens, then you can go ahead and have the stuff in place, plant the seed and then get your crop. As far as livestock, if you have the space, and you also got to check with your city ordinances, you can have chickens, you can have rabbits. Those have always been and will always be the best option for preppers, because rabbits will give you a lot of meat very quickly, and the chickens will also give you meat, and they will give you eggs. They will give you so many options, and that would just be another layer for you and your family to have your food security in place. So none of this is the right answer. They all go together. All right. If you want to have canned food, storable food, and be able to farm, that's excellent. That's just layer upon layer upon layer for your food security, and that's the best thing to do. Now, I said all of that to say this. 8 years ago, I had to go back to Mexico to be able to fix my status. And it wasn't just me, it was my younger brother, and I took my son with me. And I had never been in Mexico. I had never I mean, I was born there, but I came to the United States at a very young age. I didn't know how to get a job. I didn't know how to get documentation, you know, like IDs or birth certificates or anything like that. I didn't even know how to ride the subways, you know. So I was very ignorant when it came to living in another city that wasn't one in the United States. Now, in those days, all we had to eat was this. This is about $1 a day. That's all we had, $1 a day, all right? And my son, he was 2 years old at the time. He didn't know what poverty was. All he knew, he was hungry, and I was there to provide it, or I couldn't provide it, all right? But the point is that I understand, and I know what it feels like to not have any food and have your children tell you that they're hungry and you don't have anything. This is not trying to manipulate you. I'm not selling you anything. I'm not telling you that there's a link anywhere. This is for your benefit. This is sincerely out of my heart for you, because I understand, and I have lived in a place to where I didn't have any food for my younger brother, or for my son, or for myself. Just in the 2 months that we went without any sort of income or anything like that, I lost 50 pounds. All right, because I didn't have any money to buy food. Now, there were a lot of times where my younger brother and I would skip our meal or our portion of the soup to give it to my son, because he will still be hungry. All right, and when your children tell you they're hungry and you have nothing to give them, you feel horrible, you feel terrible, and you just have desperation. There was this one time when my brother and I found $5, all right, and that was enough to buy us one piece of bread each, some eggs, and some sour cream. My son and I ate our portion, and since my brother, at that time, he was the one working, and he was working 14 hours a day, and in Mexico, when you get a job, first you have to go through training, which they don't pay you, and then when you complete it, then they start paying you. And that training would take about a month to complete. And the whole entire month, we didn't have any money, and no money was coming in. So this is all we had. So anyways, when he came back home, because he saved his portion of the food, of the eggs and the bread and everything, he came back home, you know, looking forward to eating it, because he was working 14 hours a day, traveling 2 hours to get to work, you know, barely getting any sleep. And when he came home, he found out that I ate it. And yeah, I mean, I'm not proud of it. It really sucked. I couldn't keep the temptation away of not eating his food, because for one, my son was very hungry, and so was I. So we ate the food. And when my brother found out that I had eaten the food, of course he became angry. But not only that, he just broke down crying, because of the situation we're in. We had never ever experienced anything like it. And I hope you never experience anything like that. So that's why this is the reason for this video. I have been through it. It sucks. It's horrible. There's desperation, and people will do what they can to survive. Even though I never broke the law, I never stole anything, I still starved to the point where I lost 50 pounds. My brother was broken down crying from our situation, and my son just was, you know, hungry constantly, because that's what kids do. They eat all the time. But you are very blessed to be in this country. All the people that have always said, or, you know, all the people that trample on the flag and talk crap about this country, you don't know how good you have it. If you want to figure out how good you have it, you should go to one of those countries that are having a really hard time. Go to Mexico, go to Venezuela, go to any place like that, and you will change your mind very quickly. You are very blessed to be in a country that has EBT, that has food stamps, because I didn't have any food stamps. Mexico has no food stamps. If you're starving and you try to find government help, all you're gonna get is turned away and say to figure out the best way you can, because there's other people out there starving too. So you are blessed to be in this country. This country is an amazing country. And if you don't think so, then you should go live somewhere else for about a year, and you will change your mind very quickly. Again, if you're on EBT, I am not talking crap or anything like that. I'm telling you, you are blessed, and while you still have this blessing, you need to go ahead and stock up on what you got. If you have the money to get storable food, get it. If you have money to have canned storable food and farm, do it. Make this a lifestyle, because at the end of the day, you will benefit from it. No one else but yourself. And remember, if you have the money, if you have the means to be able to prep in a way to where you can get enough food and water for you and your family, prepare a little bit more to give to people who either couldn't because they don't have the money, or that didn't never thought about it because they were too dependent on the system. That food can always be given to organizations like churches, the Red Cross. You can just give it out yourself, and it'll bless you, and you will feel wonderful. I have helped people out of my stock of cans because they didn't have any food to eat, and they had children. So I know, since I have already gone through it, I knew what it felt like. So I would give them some of my stock, enough to get them by, before the next paycheck, or before their EBT was put back in their card. I just helped, and it feels really good to help. We're not wanting anything back, just saying, here, I have more than enough, you can have some of mine. So remember, always prep for other people. God will bless you for it, and you will feel very happy that you did. But anyways, I hope that this message will open your eyes and get you to prepare. And I'm not here to manipulate anybody or pull out your heartstrings or anything like that. But I'm telling you, poverty and starvation is a very real thing. And how you react is different for everybody, but it's a horrible experience. So do it while you still can. You still have time to not panic buy. You still have time to sit down and with your loved ones and see what you're gonna get and all the money you have for it. If you don't have money for it, you can set aside for EBT, or if you don't have enough for EBT, or you don't have enough money, then try to find a place that give out food, like food banks. There's places like that, and see if they'll give you cans that you can store. But anyways, I hope you like this video. Please share it with everybody, with other people, and please subscribe to the channel, because today we talked about food, tomorrow we're gonna talk about water. All right, guys, thank you, and as I've always said, always ready.
The Man-Made Survival Show.